Pitch to Pro is the official podcast of USL Arkansas. This will be our platform to tell our story about the club and the special place that we call home, Northwest Arkansas. This is a journey. We want to bring you along for the ride. We'll share what's going on behind the curtain, help educate the community at large about soccer, our league, and give updates on the progress of the club along the way. Together, we'll explore and unpack our journey to professional soccer, the magic that is NWA, our community, and talk all things soccer from on the pitch to behind the scenes, telling the story of our club. Pitch to Pro podcast is proudly sponsored by podcastvideos.com. Podcastvideos.com is Northwest Arkansas's premier podcast recording studio. Equipped with industry-leading equipment, the recording studio and services save you time, money, and hassle. They are dedicated to helping you create, record, and publish high-quality podcasts for your audience. Be sure to check them out today at podcastvideos.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pitch to Pro podcast. I'm your host, Wes Harris, Managing Director for USL Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas's professional soccer club playing in the United Soccer League. I am super stoked to continue this conversation today. We've got our friends from the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation back with us. Just to remind everybody, we've got Mr. Lloyd Owers, our technical director, and commercial and marketing director, Mr. Matt Webb. Gents, thank you so much for coming back and joining us. Hopefully we can round out a really awesome discussion from part one here today. So thank you.
Pleasure to be back.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
If you have to watch the first episode if you haven't, because you'll understand why the kit and where we're here. But I'm very happy to only be sporting, and we even changed the lighting for you guys here.
Here's the home.
I think, I even put on the orange watch, the ring. I mean, I'm a brand ambassador, right? So, but thank you guys so much for coming back and joining us. Just to refresh everybody's memory really quickly, Marshall Islands, group of islands and atolls in the Pacific. They're the last UN nation in the world to have a national soccer team. But these folks are working to change that. So very quickly and very soon, no more. So wonderful to kind of see the journey and talk a little bit about it. And last time, we kind of talked about the history of the project, what you guys are aiming to do short, long term. Today's episode, I thought we'd dive a little bit deeper into the connection to here in Northwest Arkansas and how you guys are going to be involved here, because you will have a really solid presence here, and we'll talk a little bit about that.
Yep.
And again, just to remind everybody, Northwest Arkansas has the largest population of Marshallese people anywhere in the world outside of the Marshall Islands. World War II, U.S. tested some nukes and other bombing in and around the islands. And as a result of that, a lot of people flooded the area. And they found work here in Northwest Arkansas at the Tyson plants, along with a lot of, I'm oversimplifying it. I don't want to do it a disservice, but that's kind of the main, draw and kind of how they found their way here throughout that process. And now that population has grown. They're very communal people, and they like to have, their communities. And so that's grown into now almost more than 15,000 people, Marshallese living in NWA, mostly in Springdale. But we have this incredible, and you guys have this incredible, population base here to kind of work in and around with, even outside of the Marshall Islands and your work there. How does Northwest Arkansas and the broader U.S. and the broader diaspora kind of play into your plans for building your project?
It's key because even though the game is growing in the Marshall Islands, it's still relatively new. And even though we have players that play, same again, it's still relatively new.
Yeah.
We have got some players that it's good because we have players that are eligible to play in the Marshall Islands that are technically not Marshallese.
Yeah.
They would be either born there or have lived there basically their whole lives because parents moved there when they were very young. And sometimes, especially the guys from like Solomon Islands, stuff like that, especially, and futsal being huge there.
Yeah.
They've had a massive impact in terms of the development of the game there, but it's still new. So in terms of the US, we've got players that are more established. We've got players in the US college system on the male and female side. We've got players on the female side that are high school players that play at a good level. And because of that, it brings that, even though they're young, it gives it a different level of experience combined with the players in the Marshall Islands. So that gives the opportunity to combine it to have more of a powerful team when we have that presence. But on the female side specifically, there is no real sort of player culture in the US. In the Marshall Islands, for female players. In the US, obviously, it's massive.
Yeah.
So we want to have that focus and have those as players as role models, inspiration of, you can do this as well. And long term, hopefully, we have players from the Marshall Islands playing in the female team that, other players can look up to as well. Yeah, the US is going to be huge for that because it just brings that level of player who have grown up playing, and hopefully that can inspire players in the Marshall Islands to do the same thing.
No, that's great. That's great. So talk a little bit about other pockets that you guys have kind of discovered through your work in terms of where some of those other pockets and bases might be for you guys, where you may, explore and work with those communities. Talk about what that landscape looks like.
I mean, we're finding out all the time, aren't we? We're uncovering new pockets of Marshallese. Everyone was telling us about, was it Utah? There's a team of guys out there.
Yep. Basically, the whole team of Marshallese players are playing like a rec league. Marshallese.
Wow.
Gold mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
We found recently. Oklahoma's a big one. California.
Yeah, we've got 3 or 4 in Reno, Nevada.
Yeah.
Over Washington State.
Yeah.
We've got the 2 college players in Philadelphia away. I can't remember where, but around that area.
Yeah.
Basically, I think our goal is what we're doing now is trying to, can we get like a database of every single Marshallese person's ever kicked a soccer ball? We want to know about you, honestly, and whatever level, because we're not just trying to find national team players, we're trying to find at any level, recreation, youth players. We want this database. We want to know about you. We want to help you where we can as well.
8-year-olds that play in sport around Springdale.
Yeah.
And it might be something that we don't have them on the database, but we know their name, but we have parents' details that, because long term, they might be 10 years done. They might be an 18-year-old playing in the national team.
Sure.
So, we want to be able to track everyone.
Yeah. And Hawaii's another one we haven't scratched the surface of. Obviously, there's a big kind of Marshallese diaspora there and founded. But so that's kind of where we're at the moment. We're kind of discovering, and we're trying to build the connections at a higher level, more of an organizational NDA stuff as well.
Yep.
NGO even, to find out where these people are and reach out to them.
Yeah.
So we're at this outreach kind of phase.
So talk a little bit about you guys' trip this time and kind of what you guys are doing, who you're meeting with, what are your goals. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's been, how long have we been here? About
3 days.
We haven't been here 3 days. It feels like 3 months.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It feels so long, but in a good way.
Yeah, so I have 2 British guys flown halfway across the road to be in Springdale, Arkansas, and we're loving it, by the way. What a place.
It's good, nice place.
Many misconceptions. I was like, wow, what a place.
Yeah, there are. And that's what we deal with a lot is misconceptions. And nobody really understands it until you're here.
Yeah.
And then, you kind of, depending on your cup of tea or whatever, but you get a much better feel, and those misconceptions are just blown away.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes people want to stay.
Yeah. Should we change our flights?
I've got to say, even though it has felt, like you said, 3 months, it's in a good way.
Oh, yeah.
There are, and we have to be honest, there are times where you're like, the downside of the project is the reality of the project.
Yeah.
Because of things where, last night, for example, we were expecting 12 to 15 male players who all reached out to us for, players that wanted to be a part of the program. And for those guys, it's an opportunity to be at least seen for a national team eligibility. We end up with 4. And it's right, okay, this is the reality of it. But at the same time, we know that there are 4 dedicated people, regardless of level.
Yeah.
And then there are 4 people that could potentially spread the word again longer term. So, yes, so it's still a massive bonus that we did have the session. We had an opportunity to see people. It's just a shame that it wasn't quite what we expected, but we still had things happening.
Nothing but positives.
Yeah, so and this is a positive out of it.
And this is your first trip, though, right?
Yeah.
And in trying to set up any kind of those sessions or anything like that. So
next time it could be bigger.
Yeah.
Next time that word will get out.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
I guess it's fitting to say, the primary objective of why we're here is to hold the first ever national women's team futsal
first
camp.
Not even just women, first national camp.
First ever national meetup.
Serious on the women's side,
and it happens to be by the way, one of the things we're trying to push, could it be the women's first ever country to have a women's team play before the men's? It's like a real we don't know yet. We're still trying to scope out. It's a very real possibility, and
that dovetails into kind of the growth of the women's game. Which is just skyrocketing, right? As it should, right? Gosh.
Definitely.
It's whatever comes naturally. We came in maybe assuming in the Marshall Islands anyway, that the male kind of team would take prominence. In the Marshall Islands, that is the case
as well.
But in the US, we've been blown away, and that's why we're holding this camp. We saw some of the female players who are expressing an interest to play, seeing their clips on Instagram, going, "We've some ballers here potentially. We need to.
Yeah, like O'Neill is flying in from California, scores goals for fun, but it looks a bit on Instagram, social media.
Yeah.
Like she plays high school level in California.
Yeah.
And obviously she scores a lot of goals, and want to bring her in. And we've got another girl. We've got Stani, who's a keeper,
Really promising. Yeah.
promising keeper that colleges are looking at. She's only high school level now, and being invited in to train. And there's potential, massive potential.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here if we didn't think there was potential. We're not just doing this because for any reason. So we've seen in players, we want to bring them together under one facility, have a bit of a practice and introduce them to each other, trying to create a sense of community.
Yeah.
And if we take a look and you think there's potential there, then can we look forward in a couple months' time hosting an international fixture?
We've got an opportunity. I won't say the country, but I don't want to give it away too much in case it doesn't happen. Potential and a very interested country who are a CONCACAF nation, not the US or Canada or Mexico, but still a CONCACAF FIFA recognised nation who are interested in playing a female fixture here in Springdale.
Oh, wow.
The Marshall Islands.
Yeah,
that would be so cool.
We want Springdale to be the hub for any Marshall Islands soccer activity in the country. It makes sense to us.
Yeah.
And obviously we've a little sideline we met with yourself. And obviously everything we do with US or Arkansas, there's some symmetry there of what's going on. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think
building together and using facilities, some real productive chats with local kind of schools and high schools and universities.
Consulate.
The other stuff, went to the RMI consulate yesterday of Springdale, of Arkansas. So building it from like a off the pitch level, what can we do to do more in your community?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's super important too.
Playing,
How do you get plugged in?
Yeah.
Because that's going to be key for you guys too, and key for us as well. I mean, they're going to be a big part of our fan base as well here in Northwest Arkansas. So, I think there's a ton that we can do together for sure, as we've kind of talked about and alluded to. But rising tides, growth of the game. Rising tides lift all boats. So, but that's awesome. That sounds like you guys have had a busy schedule. Still more to go. And your first trip of hopefully, Benny, this thing starts to snowball and you guys continue to grow and develop and start making those plans. That'd be incredible. I mean, I know I'm already kitted out. I'm ready for that match that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about we talked about the senior level and kind of what you guys are doing, a little bit on the Marshall Islands. What do you guys kind of aspire to do and look to do within anything with the youth? And how do you start to build a talent base in that, both on the islands and elsewhere? It's kind of a bit of a unique, not that unique, but it's definitely more prevalent of a split between kind of the home base country and then this other pocket of diaspora around the world, and here in Springdale, a bit of a concentration, obviously. But talk a little bit about that and how you guys have to manage that, and then cultivating the talent pool.
So the Marshall Islands itself have like the youth structure that links into the philosophy of how we want to play as a nation.
Yep.
It's harder to implement that for the US-based players because obviously they have their own club environments, school environments. But when we have these camps, it's going to then be important at that more sort of elite level, I guess, that we play that certain way. And I think that's probably the same as any nation. When you come to an international camp, they might play one way for their club, but a very different way for their nation. So that's going to be the way of pulling that in. But the main thing around, especially in Arkansas, actually, is going to be participation of players and getting kids playing. And the more kids we can get playing who are Marshallese, long term, hopefully there's more opportunity to find those elite players. But even if we don't have those elite players, at least then they've picked something. They're more active, they're more social, they're more whatever, holistically packaged as a person, I guess, through the medium of soccer. So more participation. And whether that's going to be a case of speaking to local people, just leaving equipment for them to use, pick up soccer, recreation soccer, just let them play. And then from that, hopefully we can find, an absolute gem who might go and play somewhere else. It might be that we link him. We spoke last night about sport in Arkansas.
Yep.
Speaking to
Comets as well.
Yeah. And speaking to local clubs it might be something that we have scholarship players at youth level that maybe can't afford it, but are good enough to play. So, but the main focus here is going to be that participation level, just increasing the game and promoting the game, because that still links to what we're doing in the Marshall Islands, because initially it was just now getting kids playing. And that's still the focus because it's so new. But already we're starting to find that there are players, kids in the Marshall Islands that are, if you've got a group of 30, you've got 10 that are standing out. And it's how we maybe in the next year or so have a different session for those guys and have like that elite pathway and almost have that as like your national center, I guess, for kids.
Yeah.
Because that'll be a plan in the next few years to have 13s, 15s, 17s teams. And same again, if that's futsal because of numbers, then we'll do that. But
right.
We want to have the elite pathway and then still the recreational pathway, and they both go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be what ties to the US as well, because it's still part.
And how good it would be if there's talented players in the Marshall Islands and they could maybe have opportunities through soccer, be about scholarships
to colleges here and stuff like that.
Potentially.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think being here as well has really opened our eyes to some of the other stuff we need to work on. So look at how soccer works.
We talked to JBU, for example, or University of Arkansas and stuff like that. The connections that we could potentially build from it.
Yep.
There could be an 18-year-old that plays now.
Yeah.
Is really, really good. And maybe just a little bit too raw, but they might have the coaching needed here. And there might be pathways, maybe not for that one now because it's too soon, but the next 18-year-old that comes through in a couple of years' time, they might be able to have that opportunity, like you said, in terms of playing here. Yeah.
Other thing, because we just kind of discovered it yesterday, I think, was how can we can provide some coaching at a very grassroots level from a certain age to make sure, especially in the Marshallese communities, soccer really is, it should be for anyone. There shouldn't be any barrier to entry.
No.
So
all you need is a ball.
Yeah, exactly.
All you need is a ball.
Yep.
So in that case, can we do anything to facilitate more people, Marshallese communities and other communities maybe, just playing soccer here and in Springdale and all those other communities as well?
Yeah, I think access to the game is one of the big things that we hope to grow and build as well. That's one of the biggest. It does, and that's one of the biggest things that we can do is continue to provide that outlet and that access to others where. We have a very weird, different model here in the U.S. on the pay-to-play system, and a lot of times it's viewed as out of their reach for a lot of other different communities, not just the Marshallese people, but other underserved, underrepresented communities.
You almost price out a player that could potentially be your country's best player. You just don't know.
It's absolutely the case, and that's we can get into a whole other reason as to like why the U.S. isn't really tapped into their athletic talent on the national teams and all that kind of stuff, but. At least on the men's side. The women's side, they're obviously doing pretty well. But, talk a little bit, you touched on it a little bit. What does recruitment look like for you guys? How are you trying to go about that? Maybe a loaded question as well. We talked about some of the challenges, but give us a high level view of what you guys are trying to do.
Probably people coming forward, because we've noticed that. And we actually heard as well, didn't we, yesterday, that Marshallese people would rather speak to a Marshallese person. And it's understandable, because culturally it would make sense. So I think sometimes people are a little bit, I don't know what the word is, it's not shy, but...
It's hesitant to come forthcoming.
Yeah, coming's the right word.
On a very basic level right now, we've got a Google form sheet for players to register their interest. That's as basic as we're doing at the moment. It's working so far. That's how we've discovered the players. Moving forward, obviously, we want to be going more proactive. So that's why we're building, and Pat, I think, has been really helpful in this aspect, Pat McStay, in helping us connect with various people and organizations at a college level, a high school level, for them to let us know about any potential players in the system who we need to be aware about. Then we can create our database and make it bigger. But yeah, we're not so advanced at the moment, but that's coming with time, I think.
Yeah, I think it has been a case of people coming forward to us and then us building on that relationship. Well, can you find other players? Do you know
players? Do you know other players?
Yeah, within your community, are there others? Try to reach out to as many youth club technical directors as possible in areas where there are pockets of Marshallese to spread the word. But same again, it's either a very low number of Marshallese that are part of a club, or they're just or zero. Or there aren't players in that club. And they're also trying to do the same thing and try to find ways to get them involved. So it's a little bit difficult in that sense. But hopefully, same again, having that presence of a national team in some way makes it probably seem more real.
Yep.
Gives them. It's not just these guys going to Springdale and doing some sessions. These guys going to Springdale and doing a session because there's a women's camp. These female players will then play an international fixture.
How we found the players for this women's camp. So a couple of them was probably from Instagram.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
So they were aware of the work we're doing. We've gone, Marshallese, DM, and then we've got a conversation.
Yeah.
Pat had a connection with one of the...
Yeah. So Pat is also a director of coaching at a club in Virginia.
Okay.
One of his teams in his club played against another team with a very talented player.
Yeah.
Who he just did a little bit of digging, found out she was Marshallese.
There you go.
And it just came about very randomly.
Yeah.
But I think that's how it's going to happen for a lot. O'Neill came about because she played her high school played against a guy that was a connection to mine on Instagram.
Yeah.
And he basically said, look, it's a Marshallese player. You need to speak to her. Yeah. And then I think we managed to get in contact with her through our official account on Instagram. And it just...
That's how
it's pretty, yeah.
So what you're saying is it's a bit of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
It's I think it's the way for us in a moment.
Yeah.
Just trying to get that word out.
We haven't discussed just a while about the football manager stuff as well.
Yeah.
And getting the
football manager?
Really?
Yeah.
Talk to me more.
So it's actually a database. Sorry, it's a nationality on the database now.
Yeah.
Marshallese.
Since we've come about, that's something that kind of Lloyd was being able to drive and get ourselves added to the game so players can now say they're Marshallese.
Yeah. So, and that's going to hopefully be a scouting tool. What about...
That's incredible. We're using video games scouting tools. I love this. I love this.
The nation
Name.
However, there is a player that belongs to a FIFA nation, has played in FIFA competition, who is actually Marshallese, but lives in said country.
Okay.
But would like to express interest in playing for us when we get to that stage of having a representation.
Yeah.
So it's going in the right direction. Yeah, definitely.
But it's all been very sporadic. Yeah. We've done a great job and we'll get more structured.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to be able to leverage the resources that you guys have around you, right? And be creative.
I think one of the things as well is like, we're doing this with zero budget.
Yeah, let's supplant this. All this great stuff we've done is done with zero. I mean, we paid $40 for a web domain. And that is as far as the kind of the seed.
But if we had the budget, what would we do?
Well, but take us back though. I mean, you guys talked about it. The football manager video game. You talked about social media has been a huge tool.
Yeah.
You couldn't do this 15 years ago.
No. Oh no.
You couldn't do this 15 years ago.
How would you find those players?
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just think about that and just the timing, right? And the serendipitousness of that. I just made up a word, but
I'm using it.
But I mean, that's also just like timing is everything too, and things happen for a reason at the right time, right? So there's a little bit of that aspect that's kind of cool. In listening to it, I'm just thinking to myself, like, God, if these guys had tried to do this, it would take them a lot longer. At least it's not to say that you couldn't do it. Obviously, it had been done, right?
You go through the phone book.
How would you do it?
Yeah. You'd be like the 10-year-olds now. If you give them a dial phone, they're like,
I
don't understand. You're talking about a landline.
But I don't know, actually. That's a good point, because I don't think we would have been able to do half the stuff that we... so where would we have had the awareness to promote what we're doing anyway?
For a start, how could 3 guys based, let's say in the UK, because Justin is here, there and everywhere, but 3 guys in the UK, how on earth would we even... All of our work, like...
Exactly.
Discussing... Because one of the things we haven't even talked about is it's being documented as well, this journey. It's part of the story. But I was like, my thing isn't particularly interesting because I do all my work sat behind a desk at a laptop in some remote place in the UK. That's not very interesting. What I'm doing is interesting, but it doesn't look very dramatic. But yeah, if it wasn't for...
Well, not only that, but then everything that you guys have been able to do in terms of the notoriety that and just the buzz and the wildfire that
2 hours on social media was then like enough for it to boom to worldwide press.
See,
it wouldn't have happened without social media. Yeah,
and it's just I mean, it's insane that has changed the landscape of sports. I mean, everything, obviously, in terms of our lives. But not to get too much on the soapbox here, but I just think about that, and not only in terms of what you guys are doing, but in terms of what we're doing as well, and how we've been able to build as well. Yep. It's totally changed the landscape. So, but kudos to you guys for being able to, you're playing it down a little bit in terms of what you guys have been able to do, I think, and be resourceful and scrappy, and you use those connections though, and so hopefully now you guys can continue to build. So I love what you guys are doing. No. It's always yes and. However, comma. I can't wait for that. I hope that comes to fruition, that game here against that other country.
I think it already has for the new update for the game. And obviously we've got like an unofficial database with a potential, it is an actual sponsor of ours, isn't it? Sort Out, SI. they've created like an update, haven't they, to be able to play in like a make-believe Marshallese league.
More maybe more from a marketing standpoint. That's like a fun thing, so people can now play as a Marshall Islands or creating a league with like some fictitious players, but like it's all something that
to
grow.
Yeah. That's incredible. I can't wait for the other country yet to be named. I would love to see that happen. Any last thoughts for our listeners? I know you guys will be back. We'll be seeing each other, but any last thoughts for our listeners on today's episode?
Continue to spread the word. Even if you're not a soccer fan, there is going to be a representation of your nation if you're Marshallese in some way.
Yep.
Even if you're not Marshallese, but you live in the area, there will be international soccer here. So
incredible.
Why not be a part of that in some way and just continue to spread the word?
Yeah, exactly the same for me. The greatest like kind of joy I get is when someone asks me about it. I get to tell them more about Marshall Islands.
Yeah.
And that's one more part. In the UK, it's really not very well known. So that one little bit of one conversation, if someone else tells someone else about that, that's all we need. You don't need to. It's great if you buy a jersey. It's great if you visit our website or follow us on social media.
Yeah.
You don't need a lot. Just learn and like ask us.
Yeah.
And spread the word. We're so happy to be kind of ambassadors for the Soccer Federation at the moment.
Incredible. I know that we are going to keep in touch and we're going to continue to help each other. Thank you guys so much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
You definitely have a new supporter here for sure. And I know that there's a lot that we can do to help each other. So absolute best of luck to you. For our listeners, remember to find us at Pitch to Pro on all platforms, wherever you get your podcasts. Check out our website, uslarkansas.com, and at USL Arkansas for all the latest updates on the club. Until next time, Northwest Arkansas, cheers.